All right, we're live. Cool. Okay, so at the top of your page, just write perfect passive participles. Okay, now what's cool about this is you've already seen these forms before. So this is nothing new for you. And essentially when I give you vocab lists, I've given you the perfect passive participle anyway. Okay, but what I'd like to do, I know that some of us might not have a strong background in English grammar, so it would be a good idea for us to go through the English grammar first and then move into the Latin. Okay, right, Jan? Take these in notes, please. Okay, I might, oh, here we go again. I might have you submit your notes as a participation grade. I can ask you to do that at any time, so just be aware. I'm watching you. In like not a creepy way though. Okay. May I? We ready? Okay. So let's just review a little bit, some concepts. Okay, passive verbs. All right, how to form them. Let me zoom in a little bit. That didn't really do much. Okay, so we've got two verb systems in Latin. We've got the present verb system and the perfect verb system. What are the three tenses in the present verb system? The present, the imperfect, and the future. Okay, so the present, imperfect, and future. And in the perfect system, we have the perfect. Yep, perfect, pluperfect, and future perfect. Okay, so in the present system, i.e. the present, imperfect, and future, all you need to do is to add your endings, right? Your endings are over here. 4 risky turtles murder mini centurions, right? Or ristor more mini untor. Okay, but in the perfect system, you use the fourth principal part, and then you include a helping verb, such as sum, like sum in the present, imperfect, and future tenses. Okay, so just to kind of bring us back to passive verbs real quickly, I've given us an example on the bottom. So take a look at the chart. I included, here, let's do this. And let's do this. Beep boop. Okay. So down here, this is like I use the verb woco vocare, okay, meaning to call. All right, now in the imperfect passive, okay, so imperfect tense, passive voice. All right, remember, it's in the present system, so we're just adding those endings, okay, the or, ris, tour, more, mini, tour, okay, and if you see, we have that here, r, ris, tour, more, mini, and tour. Okay, yes, you can. All right, so in terms of translation, we can go through those. Wokabar, I was being called. Wokabaris, you were being called. Wokabator, he, she, or it was being called. Wokabamur, we were being called. Wokabamini, y'all were being called. And wokabantor, they were being called. All right, so all of those are imperfect tense in the passive voice. Okay, passive voice meaning that the subject is like receiving the action. Okay, right, so like wokabar, I was being called. I am the one being called. I'm receiving the action, which is different from the active voice, right? I was calling you, right? I am doing the calling, but someone else is getting the action of that. That's active versus passive. Okay, does this kind of bring back to mind what we need? Just making sure you're not still reading. Okay. Now in the pluperfect passive, right? Pluperfect, what verb system is that in? It's in the perfect verb system, right? Okay, so all we do, and I kind of truncated it here, because technically if we were to like fully flesh it out, it would be for the singular, vocatus erameraserat. Okay, and in the plural it would be vocati eramos eratus erant. Right, because think about it this way. This is why I'm telling you that this new grammatical concept, the participle thing, which we haven't really talked about just yet, it's super easy because you've seen these forms before. All right, it's simply just the fourth principal part with adjective endings of the first and second declension. Okay, so what I mean by that, right, over here, we've got our principal parts, woko, wokare, wokawi, wokatus. All right, that's our fourth principal part. And if you notice, it's here too. Okay, so all you have to do is just pop off that US and add your first or second declension noun endings, and you get that participle that we're talking about. Okay, so that's kind of how you form it. You've seen this before. It's not. It's pretty easy to recognize. Okay, any questions on this concept of the passive voice and how to do it in both verb systems? No? Okay. Do you all need more time on this slide? Yes? Okay. The chart? I would, just so you have it. But again, if I'm going too fast, what you can do, this video will be recorded and posted on YouTube, so you can go back, like you can just mark out the space for it, then go back later and fill it in, just so we can kind of keep us moving. Question? You look puzzled. What's up?
Okay, so you said for both the singular and plural, right? There are three different places.
So you mean like up here, this thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me explain. Now, let's do an example. So, Aurelia wokata erat. Okay, Aurelia, I guess, had been called. Yeah, Aurelia had been called. All right, so the reason this ending has to be wokata is because it has to agree with the subject in gender, number, and case. Okay, so let's say I want to say the Cornelii, like the family, right? It's going to be wokati erant. Okay, so it's simply just a agreement, right? So the Cornelii had been called. Okay, so it's almost like an adjective. Think of it that way, like a verb with adjective endings. Okay. All right. And I guess maybe one more side note to make. What's cool about the passive voice in the perfect system like these, it helps, like this ending here, that US or whatever adjective ending you're going to pop on it, is going to help you identify the subject much more quickly and efficiently, right? Because it does have to agree. So it'll help you identify the subject faster. That's why those are super nice. Okay, any questions before we move on?
Can I take a picture so I can just copy it quickly?
You mean you don't want to watch my YouTube channel?
Oh, well, I can.
You can take a picture if you want.
I'll subscribe.
Okay. Good? Okay, I'm just going to keep going. All right, again, if you need more time on this slide, just go back. I will post this video. You can find it linked up on the daily schedule next to, well, it'll be there for today. Okay, so some new concepts. Let's talk about English grammar. Now, I know some of us don't have formal training in English grammar, and that's okay. Okay, that's just the way education is now. So a new term I'm introducing to you is that of a participle. Okay, and all a participle is a verbal adjective. You use them all the time. Okay, now basic English, okay? Present participles end in ing, and past participles end in ed, d, t, en, or just n. Okay, so below I've put some examples so you can kind of see how that works. All right, so this column here, we've got our verb, our infinitive form. Okay, and then we've got it in this column used in the present participle form. And then in this column, we've got them in the past participle form. So let's go through each. Okay, my verb here is to rise. To rise. So what is that going to do as the present participle? The rising sun. Okay, see it ends in an ing, and it's rising is a verb, right? Rising is a verb, but it's acting like an adjective. It's telling you that the sun is rising. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, let's just do, let's keep doing the present participles. Okay, to boil, that's our infinitive form. Now if we go and use it in as a present participle, the boiling water, right? Boil is a verb, but it's telling us what the water's doing, the boiling water. Okay, to break, infinitive form. Okay, if we were to use that as a present participle, the breaking news, right? Break is a verb, but we're using it adjectively here. Okay, the news, that's like broken, you know, it's like done, it's a thing, or happening currently.
Nobody teaches us this.
Huh?
I said nobody teaches us this.
I know, and that's part of the problem. Well, now they do. Yeah, thank goodness for Mr. Jeffrey. Oh, God bless that man.
Yeah.
Okay, to cook, right? The cooking ham. Ham is gross, but whatever. The cooking ham. Okay, cook is a verb, but we're using it participally, sorry. Okay, now notice here, this is called the present participle for a reason. Okay, if it's the rising sun, at what time is the sun rising? If it's the present participle. Right now, right? The rising sun shone in the sky. Yeah, the swimming child, right? They're swimming right now. You know, the sleeping beauty, she's currently sleeping, right? So it's a present participle. Okay, all present participles will end in ing. Okay, that's English for you. Okay, we'll learn, Latin does have a present participle, and they're super easy to recognize, so don't worry too much about that. I'll teach you all about that in a later chapter. Okay, now, past participles, okay, let's move on to this column right here. Okay, again, because English is kind of that language of exception, it's very weird. There are a lot of potential endings on these verbal adjectives. Okay, so just kind of bear with me. Right, so to rise is our verb here. Okay, and that gives us the risen sun. Okay, now let me ask you this. Think of this sentence. She was walking on the beach when she saw the risen sun. Okay, question, has the sun already risen?
Yeah.
Right, so it's happened prior to the action of the main verb. All right, that's why it's the past participle. The participle itself has happened before the action of the main verb. Okay, let's try another, to boil. Okay, the boiled water was overflowing when she went to add the ravioli. I don't know. Okay, what came first? Was the water boiled first, or did she add the ravioli? The water was boiling first, right? So the action happened prior to the action of the main verb. Okay, to break, right? She cried when she saw the broken news. What happened first? Seeing the the broken news, or the crying? What happened first? Yeah, you have to see the broken news first before you talk about the crying. Okay, so just think about that, right? In terms of time spectrum, these adjectives have a tense. It's kind of weird, but like you use them all the time. Okay. She dropped the cooked ham. Oh no. What came first? Was the ham cooked, or did she drop it? Yeah, it had to be cooked first before it could be dropped, right? So that's kind of the aspect of the past participle versus the present participle. Okay, and now that you know this, you'll see it all the time and you'll be like, I know what that is. Yay. Okay, does this make sense? Okay, so this is just this is straight up English grammar. Okay. May I? Okay. All right, again. Get the last one? Okay. Okay, good? All right. So just to do some practice, I guess you guys don't have to write these down. You might want to write down like one or two. But essentially, I wanted to kind of practice identifying participles in English so you kind of know what to look for. Okay, so number one, can someone read that example for me? Okay, a laughing man is stronger than a suffering man. Which words are my participles? There's two. What are they? Yep, laughing and suffering. Exactly right. Okay, now what kind of participles are those? Yeah, they're both present participles. Good. Right, because they're happening contemporaneously with what's going on in the sentence. Okay, number two. A biting statement from Mark Twain for you.
Oh, I like this one.
I like this one too. Jalissa, can you read that for me?
Sorry. If you pick up a silent dog and make it possible so it will not bite you, this is the principal difference between a dog and a man.
Bam. Biggest mic drop.
Mic drop.
Yeah, just food for thought. Okay. So what is my participle here? There's only one. Starving. Okay, what kind of participle is that? Is it present or past? Present, right? Because it ends in ing. Okay. Number three, from your boy Tupac. The only thing that comes to a sleeping man is dreams. Preach. All right, what's my participle? Sleeping, good. What kind of participle is that? If it's ing, good. Yep, exactly, nice. Okay, number four. When bees sting, there is potential for an allergic reaction shown by swollen limbs. All right, this one's a little trickier. What's my participle here, Thomas? Swollen, good. Now, it doesn't end in ing. What kind of participle is this? What's the other one? There's present and there's past. Okay, right? So what had to happen first? The bee has to sting you first before your limbs can be swollen, right? So that's why it's a past participle. Okay, number five, do not waste time staring at dried paint. Ooh, this is a tricky one. How many participles are there?
Two.
There's two. Ho, ho, ho. All right, what are my two? Well, someone give me one. Okay, dried. Yep. All right, what kind of participle is that? Good, it's a past participle. All right, and what's my other participle? Nate? Staring, good. Okay, and what kind of participle is that? Good. Okay. Number six, whistling while working is always a good way to pass the time. Where are my participles? Erin, what do you think?
To be honest, I can't really see.
Oh, that's right. All right, Jan, help me out.
Whistling, working, and past, I think.
Yeah,
N-
past counts, right?
No, because that's two past. I think that would
Because
be
it seems like it would.
two
honestly.
past the
Oh,
time.
'cause it's-
Mm-hmm.
No, if you did zoom in, I can't see because.
Zoom in.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
right.
All right. Maybe I should use bigger font when I do this. Sorry about that. I don't think this is a participle.
No,
It
Salma
sound-
said it's an infinitive.
Yeah, it sounds more infinitive-y to me.
Whistling is present, right?
Good. They're both present participles.
Wait, how is past?
Huh? Because it's to pass. To pass. Right? Yeah, because remember, infinitives are usually like to blank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and I think it's an infinitive. This might be a Mr. Jeffrey question, because sometimes there are things in English that don't exist in Latin, because English is like it's like a conglomerate of languages. It's a cesspool of language. Yeah, it's pretty gross. It's a polyglot stew, as they say. All right, yeah, so I think those are the only two participles there. Number 7, the burnt ham was a sight that Titus could not tolerate. What is my participle? Burnt? Burnt, good. And what kind of participle is that, everyone? Past, yeah. Yeah, it's like a weird one. Yeah, so the past ones, unfortunately, because English is weird, are going to have different endings, but nevertheless, the concept remains the same. Okay, does this make sense?
Yeah.
A bit to the right? Yes, but remember, I will post the link, so you can always go back and see this. Okay. And would it be helpful for you guys to have the PowerPoint? Do you want that?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, I'll link it then. I'll link it with the notes that we write on it, I guess. Yep, on that daily schedule.
Your YouTube thing has your voice too, right? It has your voice.
So I'll post both. I'll post the YouTube and I'll post the slides, so you have both to study from. Okay, so now let's move into Latin, participles in Latin. All right, we've got one example here. Okay, this sentence right here. Quoquus vocatus ab omnibus laudatus est. Okay. Whoops. Get rid of that. It was bugging me. All right, so the translation, the cook, having been summoned, was praised by everyone. All right, now let's talk about what we've got here, aside from Chris falling asleep on me. Good morning. Good morning. Hello. Yeah, you. Yeah. Okay. So what's my subject here? What's my subject? Just shout it out.
The cook.
The cook. All right, so quoquus is my subject. Now, let's mark up the rest of this just for the sake of it. What's my main verb? What's my main verb?
Isn't it something?
Wait, no.
Oh.
Yeah.
Laudatus est is my main verb, right? Think of it this way, right? Because I can't say the cook summoned,
Yeah.
right? You're waiting for me to say more. That doesn't sound like a main clause. But if I were to say the cook was praised, that's a main sentence. So that would be our main verb. Okay, now ab omnibus. What am I going to do with that? How do I mark that up?
Oh, prepositional.
Yep, it's a prepositional phrase, so we just circle that. Oh, whoops, it's going to erase. Do. Will it do it? Oh, I hate when it does that. It's like, why would I ever want to draw an ugly shape like that? Just make it a circle. Okay, so everything is marked up except for vocatus. Now, so it's acting like an adjective, but it's coming from the verb coquo coquere, to cook, right? So verbal adjectives. What's a verbal adjective again? What do we call those? It's a participle, okay? And I will tell you that this is a PPP, okay? PPP stands for, you should write this down. Perfect. Passive participle. Because it is indeed a mouthful. I will say it as perfect passive participle, but eventually we will transition over into just saying PPP. Saves time. Okay. I'll even put it in parentheses so you remember. Okay. Right, so if you notice, right, this is our participle. It's kind of, it's like almost just, it's extra information. It's extra information, and it's kind of bookended by commas, right? So the cook having been summoned. All right, this is the base way, the standard way to translate perfect passive participles when you see them, having been blanked, right? Like the perfect passive. So let's think about this for a second, right? So in English, we've got the past participle and the present participle, right? In Latin, we've got another aspect to it. We've got perfect and passive. Okay, so let's think about this. What happened first? Was the cook praised or was the cook summoned? What happened first? He had to be summoned first. It happened before the praising. So therefore, it has a perfect or a past aspect to it, just like the past participle does in English. Okay, now what makes it passive? Because he was summoned rather than doing the summoning. Does that make sense? Right, so he's receiving the action of the participle. So the cook, having been summoned, was praised by everyone. Okay, does that kind of make sense? All right, I've put some alternative translations if you want to get super fancy with it. But when in doubt, having been blanked is the way to go, usually. Okay, question?
Oh, are there like active participles or is it just passive?
There are active participles.
How do you like translate that? Because
Okay, so here's the quick answer. There is no perfect active participle. There's present passive, I'm sorry, see, you're confusing me. Perfect passive participle, present active participle, and then there's a future active and a future passive. So there's only 4 types of participles that are possible in Latin. Okay, but they're easily recognizable, easily translatable. The only active, the present active is like the ing, like the swimming child or the eating dog.
because I translate that like the summon cook, would that be wrong for like a perfect passive participle?
You could. I just think
It's more specific to say it that way.
like it's more precise if you say having been, so it gets that perfect aspect to it rather than just. Okay, if you want to be fancy, you can use after, when, or you can even turn it into a relative clause if you want to. Okay, but not necessary. Yeah.
So 2 questions. So those 4 all mean the same thing, right? They're all the same.
Oh, all the translations?
Yeah.
Yes, essentially. They're all the same.
This is kind of unrelated, but do we have some German translations of those 3?
I'll see if you did them. Yeah, I'll see how we did on that.
Oh.
Yeah, okay. Good question. Okay. Another example. Oh, sorry. Okay, so that's just a participle on its own, right? Acting as an adjective. Now, there's something called participial phrases. Okay, meaning it's a participle, but there's more going with it. Okay, now if you notice, I've bolded the participle and I've underlined the participial phrase so you can see what's going on here. Okay, so naratam is our PPP. Okay, de calpone is a prepositional phrase, so I'm going to circle that. Okay, now it's a question, but the subject is vos. Audivistis is my main verb, and illam fabulam is my direct object accusative. Okay, so have you heard that story told about the innkeeper? Okay, you see how that kind of functions as like a participial phrase, right? It's not just, have you heard that story told? Right, that story told, there's a little more to that about the innkeeper. Okay, so that would be kind of a participial phrase rather than just the participle by itself.
Innkeeper, the PPP.
No, the PPP is naratam. The innkeeper is part of it's part of the phrase itself. So like what's underlined, sorry, this is your participial phrase. So it's included in that, but the PPP is just naratam. Okay. What I'd like you guys to do for homework is finish up your translation of the rest of the story. We'll continue this grammar lesson when we come back next week. Okay.
So we shouldn't submit this yet, we'll submit it after?
Yeah,
or-
so don't submit your notes just yet. But I will still post the link to the video and the slides so you can see them as they are, okay? All right, great.